Chapter 1. Fateful Encounter. The spring rain in New York is drizzling, weaving diagonally like silver threads. The cold raindrops hit the glass windows of the hospital, making a tapping sound, as if it is the malicious drumbeat of fate. Serena, dressed in a white nurse uniform, shuttled lightly in the corridor of the hospital. Under the white nurse cap, a few strands of chestnut hair were playfully scattered. Her eyes were focused and gentle, the medical record folder in her hand was tightly held, and every step was steady and firm. Ethan's ward was at the end of the corridor. It was a spacious but slightly depressing VIP ward. 3 years ago, a sudden car accident paralyzed the pride of the Carter family in bed. Serena pushed open the door and the pungent smell of disinfectant mixed with the moist soil smell coming in from the window came to her face. Ethan was lying on the bed, his face as pale as paper. His eyes, which used to be as blue as gemstones, were now shrouded in haze, full of despair and anger. His fingers were unconsciously tugging at the sheets and his knuckles were white. Seeing Serena coming in, he turned his face away and snorted coldly, "Get out, I don't need you hypocritical people to take care of me." Serena was not angry. She gently put down the medical record folder, walked to the window and opened the curtains a little to let the weak light in. "It's raining hard today, but the maple tree downstairs has sprouted new buds. When the weather is better, maybe I can push you to sit under the tree." Her voice was gentle as if it had a soothing magic. Ethan sneered, "Why are you sitting there? Watching others walk normally? Are you here to laugh at me, a useless person?" His tone was sharp, full of self-abandonment. Serena did not respond to his ridicule, but just walked quietly to the bed and began to tidy up his quilt. Her movements were gentle and skillful and every detail was handled just right. Ethan watched her movements and an inexplicable irritation surged in his heart. He suddenly stretched out his hand and tried to push Serena away, but he almost fell because of his lack of coordination. Serena was quick to support him and asked with concern, "Are you okay? Don't be so impulsive." Ethan's hand touched Serena's arm. At that moment he seemed to be hit by an electric current, and a strange yet familiar feeling surged in his heart. In the countless days of suffering from illness in the past 3 years, Serena always took care of him so meticulously, but he never really looked at her. Days passed and Ethan's legs gradually regained some sensation. This should have been good news for him, but he fell into deeper anxiety and uneasiness. He was afraid that hope would be followed by despair again, and he was even more afraid that he would never be able to return to his previous state. That morning, Serena walked into the ward as usual, but saw Ethan staring at the sparrows outside the window in a daze. Those sparrows jumped and chirped on the branches, feeling so free that it made people feel distressed. "Serena," Ethan's voice was a little hoarse as if it had been polished by the years, "tell me, can I still live like a normal person?" Serena walked to his side, squatted down, looked at him level and her eyes were firm and sincere. "Of course. I will accompany you until you recover. No matter what difficulties we encounter, we will face them together." There was no perfunctory look in her eyes, full of seriousness and persistence. Ethan suddenly turned his head and their eyes collided. At that moment time seemed to freeze, and the smell of disinfectant in the ward seemed to fade, leaving only the accelerated heartbeats of each other. From that day on, rehabilitation training had a different temperature. Ethan would secretly smell the faint lavender scent in Serena's hair when she bent over. Serena would also smile with relief when Ethan tried to complete the movements. When on duty late at night, the hospital was silent, with only the faint ticking sound of the instrument. Serena would sit by Ethan's bed and talk about her own things. Of course, she concealed her identity as the heir of the Morgan Group and only said that she was an ordinary nurse. She talked about her interesting experiences in nursing school and the nervousness and anxiety when she first took care of a patient. Ethan shared the strictness of the Carter family during his childhood and the days when he was bound by family rules. He said that he was required to learn all kinds of business knowledge and participate in various social activities since he was a child, and there was no moment that belonged to him. The two souls were getting closer and closer in this ward. They were like travelers groping in the dark, finding warm comfort in each other. However, the secret hidden in Serena's heart was like a time bomb, which would blow up all the disguises as soon as the time was right. As time went by, Ethan's condition gradually improved, and he began to be able to sit up, and even tried to stand with the help of Serena. Every little progress made Serena extremely happy, and Ethan gradually regained some confidence with her encouragement. However, fate did not seem to let them go easily. One day Ethan's family members came to visit. Their eyes were full of indifference and alienation. They only asked a few questions about Ethan's condition and began to talk about the family's business and future arrangements. Ethan's face became more and more ugly. Serena watched from the side, feeling a little uneasy. At night, only Ethan and Serena were left in the ward. Ethan was silent for a long time and suddenly said, "Serena, do you think I am a burden? Everyone in the family thinks I am useless. Even if I recover, I may never be able to return to my previous position." Serena held his hand tightly. "You are not a burden, you are yourself. No matter what happens, you have the ability to start over. Don't listen to them, you have to believe in yourself." Her words were like a flame, igniting the hope that was about to go out in Ethan's heart. The rain was still falling outside the window, but the atmosphere in the ward was warm and full of hope. However, they didn't know what kind of storm this hard-won warmth would face. Serena was also struggling with whether to tell Ethan her true identity. She was afraid that this newly budding relationship would die because of the difference in status. But what she didn't expect was that the turning point of fate came so unexpectedly. Chapter 2: False Eternity. Serena pushed Ethan on the path in the garden, and the wheels rolled over the petals on the ground, making a slight rustling sound. There were bustling people around, there were recovering patients walking with their families, and there were nurses pushing carts full of medicines hurriedly passing by, but in the world of Ethan and Serena, it seemed that only each other and the full spring scenery were left. "It's so beautiful." Ethan sighed softly, but his eyes did not fall on the blooming roses, but stared at Serena closely. Her cheeks were faintly flushed in the sunlight, and her chestnut hair fluttered gently in the breeze, like a beautiful painting. Ethan suddenly reached out and held Serena's hand tightly. His palm was slightly sweaty and his voice was trembling with nervousness. "Just like you." Serena was stunned for a moment and subconsciously wanted to pull her hand back. Her heartbeat suddenly accelerated and her cheeks became hot. But Ethan held it tighter and his eyes burned with a fiery light as if he wanted to suck Serena in. "Serena, do you know what these 3 years mean to me?" Ethan's voice was low and affectionate. "It's hope, it's all the reasons that support me to hold on." Serena opened her mouth and wanted to tell her true identity, but she swallowed it back when the words came to her lips. Her heart was full of contradictions and struggles. She was afraid that once she said that she was the heir of the Morgan Group, this budding love would be tainted by worldly prejudices and considerations of interests. She was even more afraid that Ethan's feelings for her would deteriorate and become no longer pure. "Wait until I am fully recovered." Ethan pulled Serena over and asked her to squat in front of him. Their eyes were level and his eyes were firm and persistent. "I will give you a perfect future, believe me." Without waiting for Serena to respond, Ethan had already kissed her forehead gently. At that moment the whole world seemed to be still, and the spring sunshine seemed to turn into a golden veil, wrapping them gently. The hustle and bustle around them gradually faded away, leaving only the rapid breathing and violent heartbeats of each other. After returning to the ward, Ethan's rehabilitation training became more diligent. He no longer complained and resisted like before, and every move was full of firm determination. Serena watched him try to stand up again, and even if he fell, he would get up again without hesitation, and her heart was full of heartache and admiration. That evening, the afterglow of the sunset sprinkled into the ward through the window, dyeing the whole room a warm orange red. Ethan had just finished a set of rehabilitation training and was exhausted. Serena took a towel and gently wiped the sweat from his forehead for him. Ethan suddenly grabbed Serena's hand and pressed it against his chest. "Do you feel it? It beats only for you." Serena's eyes were slightly moist and she could no longer restrain her emotions. She nodded gently and responded to this hard-won love. From that day on, the ward was filled with a sweet atmosphere. They would share their favorite movies in their spare time. Ethan would enthusiastically tell the gripping plots and profound philosophy in the movies, and Serena would lean against him, listen quietly, and express her unique insights from time to time. They would also discuss where they wanted to go in the future. Ethan said he would take Serena to Greece to see the sea, to feel the blue ocean and ancient civilization. Serena smiled and said she wanted to learn to cook Greek food. When they arrived in Greece, They could taste the food they made by themselves in the cottage by the sea and enjoy the beautiful sea view. When I can walk, the first hug will definitely be for you. When Ethan said this, Serena was massaging his legs. She raised her head and met Ethan's affectionate eyes. She suddenly blushed, patted his shoulder gently and said angrily, "You only say nice things." But she couldn't help but raise the corners of her mouth, and her eyes were full of happy smiles. However, happy times are always short-lived, and the shadow of fate is quietly approaching. One day, Ethan's parents suddenly came to the hospital. Their expressions were serious and indifferent, which was completely different from the caring family members Serena saw on weekdays. They simply asked about Ethan's condition and then shifted the topic to the family business and future arrangements. "Ethan, you also know that the family situation has not been good recently. After you recover, you must take over some important affairs as soon as possible," Ethan's father said in a tough tone without any doubt. "Also, regarding your marriage, we have reached an agreement with the XX Consortium. Their granddaughter is a very good girl and is a good match for our family," Ethan's mother continued as if all this was taken for granted. Ethan's face turned pale and he subconsciously looked at Serena, his eyes full of helplessness and guilt. Serena's heart sank suddenly, and she realized that the thing she was most worried about had happened. But she did not have an attack on the spot, but just quietly packed up her things and prepared to leave the ward to make room for their family. The moment she turned around, Ethan suddenly shouted, "Serena, wait." He struggled to get off the bed but fell to the ground because of his hasty movements. Serena hurried over and helped him up, her eyes full of worry. "Are you okay?" Ethan grabbed Serena's hand tightly and looked at his parents. "I won't marry the granddaughter of that consortium. I love Serena." Ethan's parents' faces suddenly became gloomy, and they glared at Serena fiercely, as if she was the culprit who destroyed their family plan. "Ethan, don't be confused. The interests of the family are above everything else. What benefits can you bring to the family by being with her?" Ethan's father said angrily. Serena felt a sharp pain in her heart. She knew that the relationship between her and Ethan was about to face a severe test. But she didn't want to embarrass Ethan. She gently pulled out her hand and said to Ethan, "You should talk to your parents first. I'll wait for you." After that, she turned and left the ward, tears bursting out of her eyes. At night, Serena sat alone in the garden of the hospital. Roses bloomed quietly in the moonlight, exuding a faint fragrance, but she had no intention of appreciating them. The indifferent eyes of Ethan's parents and the helpless expression of Ethan kept appearing in her mind, and her heart was full of confusion and pain. She didn't know where her future with Ethan was, nor did she know whether this love could withstand the test of reality. At this time, Ethan was arguing fiercely with his parents in the ward. He was determined not to give up Serena, even in the face of family pressure and threats. But he also knew that if he wanted to be with Serena, he had to make some changes and strive for their future. On this seemingly beautiful spring night, Ethan and Serena's love boat is facing the storm. Whether they can work together to overcome this crisis and reach the other side of happiness is still an unknown. Chapter 3. Cruel Betrayal. The sky in New York seemed to be splashed with ink so gloomy that it was hard to breathe. The fine rain woven into a depressing net, covering the entire city. Serena stood in the corridor of the hospital, holding her mobile phone tightly in her hand. On the screen was Ethan's short and cold text message. Every word was like a sharp needle piercing her heart. "Serena, we are over. The family marriage contract cannot be violated. I want to marry the granddaughter of the consortium." Her fingertips trembled slightly and she read the text message over and over again as if this would change its meaning. But no matter how many times she read it, those words were still cruelly placed there, announcing that their former love was broken like bubbles. The rain outside the window became more and more violent, crackling on the glass and also on her broken heart. Serena took a deep breath, trying to calm herself down, but her throat seemed to be blocked and she couldn't breathe. She looked up at the pale ceiling, her eyes gradually turned red, tears rolled in her eyes, but she stubbornly refused to let them fall. In the past 3 years she has taken care of Ethan wholeheartedly, from the despair when he was paralyzed in bed to the hope when he gradually recovered. She was by his side every moment. Those days and nights spent together, those sweet vows, were they just a dream? She called Ethan and only a mechanical busy tone came from the receiver, over and over again, just like her empty and dead heart at the moment. Serena's hands fell weakly and the phone almost slipped. She leaned against the wall, her legs were weak and the whole person seemed to have been drained of all strength. Why? Serena questioned again and again in her heart, but she couldn't get any answer. She began to recall the various signs before Ethan was discharged from the hospital, those moments when he wanted to say something but stopped, those moments when he avoided her gaze. It turned out that there were reasons. He had known about the family's engagement for a long time, but he still pretended to know nothing and continued to talk about love with her, keeping her in the dark. Anger and humiliation surged into her heart like a tide, completely drowning her. Serena took off her nurse badge and threw it into the trash can. She watched the small badge disappear in the trash, and a sense of determination surged in her heart. Since gentleness and kindness were exchanged for betrayal, she didn't have to hide her identity anymore. She took out her mobile phone and called her grandfather. "Grandpa," Serena tried to make her voice sound calm, "I won't get married. The engagement is with Ethan Carter, a man like that, I don't deserve it." On the other end of the phone, Grandpa was silent for a moment and then a chuckle came. "Have you thought about it? Don't want to be a nurse anymore?" "No." Serena's eyes became firm, looking at the city blurred by rain outside the window. "I want to go back to Morgan Group." Hang up the phone, Serena went to the host family to pick up her daughter Lucy. Along the way, the rain wet her hair and clothes, but she was unaware. When she arrived at the host family, 5-year-old Lucy jumped into her arms like a happy little deer and asked in a baby voice, "Mom, will we never be separated again?" Serena hugged Lucy tightly as if she had grasped the last warmth in her life. Never be separated again. She secretly swore in her heart that for her daughter and for herself, she must become strong and make those who hurt her pay the price. At this time, Ethan was sitting in the Carter's mansion, staring at the rain outside the window in a daze. He held a photo with Serena in his hand. The two people in the photo were smiling brightly, but now everything has changed. He knew that he had hurt Serena's heart, but the pressure from the family was like a mountain, which made him breathless. For the benefit of the family, he had no choice but to give up Serena and marry the granddaughter of the consortium whom he had never met. "Ethan, you should prepare for the engagement, which is very important to the family." His father's serious voice came from behind. Ethan did not look back but nodded silently. He felt mixed emotions in his heart, including guilt towards Serena, confusion about the future and more helplessness. He knew that from this moment on he had lost the most precious thing. Serena returned to the Morgans' mansion. The familiar yet unfamiliar environment made her feel complicated. Grandpa came up to her and looked at her embarrassed appearance with heartache in his eyes. "Child, I'm sorry for you." Serena shook her head. "No, I'm too stupid." She hugged Lucy tightly as if drawing strength. "Grandpa, I want Ethan to regret what he did." Grandpa patted her shoulder. "Okay, Grandpa supports you. The granddaughter of the Morgan family is not so easy to bully." In the following days, Serena began to get familiar with the family affairs again. She was buried in documents and meetings, and every decision was calm and decisive. The gentle nurse image of the past gradually faded, replaced by the strength and competence of the heir of the Morgan Group. And Lucy slowly adapted to the new environment. Her innocent smile became Serena's motivation to move forward in the darkness. Ethan occasionally thought of Serena, and the guilt in his heart grew like weeds. He tried to find out about Serena but found nothing. He didn't know that the woman he hurt was getting stronger step by step. A storm was coming and he was about to pay a heavy price for his betrayal. Chapter 4: Reversal of Identity. The Morgan Group headquarters building stands in the financial center of New York. The cold glass curtain wall reflects the dazzling sunlight, showing the majesty and power of this business empire. Serena took Lucy's hand and walked into the building steadily. She was wearing a simple and capable black suit. Her neat short hair swayed slightly with her steps, and her eyes were full of confidence and determination, which was completely different from the one who used to wear a nurse's uniform and smile gently. The moment she stepped into the hall, the originally noisy space suddenly became quiet, and the employees cast surprised and awed eyes. The heir of the Morgan Group, who had disappeared for many years, finally came back. Serena nodded slightly as a greeting and walked straight to the elevator. Lucy looked around curiously, her bright eyes full of novelty, and whispered, "Mom, this place looks so great." Serena gently pinched her cheek and whispered, "From now on, this is our territory." The elevator door slowly opened and the grandfather had been waiting on the top floor. Seeing Serena, the old man showed a relieved smile on his face. "Welcome home, my child." Serena walked up and gave her grandfather a hug. "Grandpa, you are worried." After the two of them exchanged a few words, Serena quickly devoted herself to the handover of work. At the same time, Ethan was busy in the Carter family's office making preliminary preparations for the cooperation project with the Morgan Group. When he saw the words Morgan Group on the list of partners, his hand trembled violently, and the pen drew a glaring mark on the document. His heartbeat suddenly accelerated, and an ominous premonition came to his mind. A few days later, at a business dinner hosted by the Morgan Group, celebrities gathered and dressed elegantly. Serena took her grandfather's arm and walked into the venue gracefully. Her appearance instantly attracted everyone's attention. Ethan was also in the crowd. The moment he saw Serena, his breathing suddenly stopped and the wine glass in his hand almost fell. The woman who once wore a simple nurse's uniform and took good care of him in the hospital was now wearing a gorgeous evening dress, and her aura was so strong that people dared not look directly at her. "This is my granddaughter, Serena Morgan." Grandpa's voice rang out in the venue and everyone applauded. Ethan stood there, his mind blank. He could never have imagined that the person he was about to marry was Serena. Keith, the vice president of the Morgan Group and Serena's childhood sweetheart, walked up to her at the right time and said with a smile, "Welcome back, you are so beautiful tonight." Serena smiled back, and the intimate interaction between the two made Ethan feel a prick in his heart. During the dinner, Ethan tried to find an opportunity to approach Serena, but was always separated by the crowd. After waiting for Serena to go to the terrace to get some fresh air, Ethan hurriedly followed her. "Serena, what's going on? Why are you the heir to the Morgan Group?" Ethan asked anxiously. Serena turned around and looked at him coldly. "Why, are you surprised? When you decided to abandon me for the family marriage, you didn't care who I was." Ethan opened his mouth and wanted to defend himself, but found that he had nothing to say. He recalled his ruthlessness towards Serena and was full of regret. At this time Lucy ran out and saw Ethan. She tilted her head and asked, "Mom, who is this uncle?" Serena picked up Lucy and said gently, "He is an unimportant person, Lucy, let's go back inside." After that she turned around and left with Lucy, leaving Ethan alone on the terrace, surrounded by endless regret and self-blame. After the dinner, Serena returned home and Lucy was already asleep in the children's room. She stood in front of the French window overlooking the night view of New York. The lights were brilliant, but they could not illuminate the pain in her heart. Keith walked in and asked softly, "What are you going to do next?" Serena clenched her fists. "Since he abandoned me for the sake of profit, I will let him taste the taste of losing everything." Keith nodded. "I will help you." The two began to discuss the next plan, and a counterattack against Ethan and the Carter family quietly kicked off. After Ethan returned to the Carter family, he did not sleep all night. He thought about his past with Serena over and over again, and the sweetness and vows he had made became a mockery of him. He realized that he had destroyed his true happiness for the so-called family interests. The next day he tried to contact Serena, but found that he had been blocked. He went to the Morgan Group again and wanted to meet Serena, but was politely and firmly rejected by the front desk. Serena devoted herself to her work. With her keen business insight and decisive decision-making, she quickly gained a foothold in the group. She began to re-examine the cooperation projects with the Carter family, looking for loopholes and problems in them, and preparing for subsequent counterattacks. At the same time, she was secretly collecting evidence of Ethan's betrayal, preparing to give him a fatal blow at a critical moment. As time went on, Ethan became more and more anxious. His family also noticed his abnormality and kept pressuring him to restore his relationship with the Morgan Group as soon as possible and facilitate the marriage. Ethan was caught in a dilemma. He could neither let go of his feelings for Serena nor go against the wishes of his family. As for Serena, everything was going according to plan. She was like a cheetah hiding in the dark, waiting for the best opportunity to deal a fatal blow to Ethan and the Carter family. Chapter 5. Cases Help. In the meeting room of the Morgan Group, the huge oval conference table was covered with all kinds of documents. The sun shone through the gaps in the blinds, casting bright strips of light on the table. Serena sat in the main seat, flipping through the documents in her hand with a focused expression, frowning from time to time, thinking about complex business issues. Case, the vice president of the Morgan Group, was reporting the recent work progress in an orderly manner, and his eyes revealed his trust and support for Serena. We have made smooth progress on several key projects this quarter, but the Carter family seems to have noticed something strange and started to be on guard. Case put down the information in his hand and looked at Serena and said. Serena nodded slightly, tapping her fingers on the table lightly. This is expected. Ethan is not so easy to sit and wait for death. However, we have enough chips to continue to move forward as planned. Her voice was calm and firm with an unquestionable momentum. After the meeting, Keith walked over to Serena and handed her a cup of coffee. Take a break, don't be too tired. You haven't rested well these days. Serena took the coffee and smiled gratefully. Thank you, I feel much more at ease with you here. The two looked at each other and their tacit understanding was beyond words. Soon the annual charity dinner of the Morgan Group arrived. This is a grand event that brings together celebrities from all walks of life in New York, and it is also an excellent stage for Serena to show her strength and determination. At the dinner, the crystal chandeliers cast bright light, and the gorgeous decorations complemented the guests in bright clothes. Serena wore a slim red evening dress, outlining her elegant figure, and Lucy wore a white gauze skirt, like a cute little angel holding Serena's hand. Ethan also received an invitation. When he stepped into the dinner, his eyes were instantly attracted by Serena. She was talking and laughing in the crowd, and her every move showed confidence and calmness, which was completely different from the gentle nurse in the hospital. Ethan's heart was filled with mixed feelings, including nostalgia for the past as well as helplessness and regret for the current situation. Keith appeared beside Serena at the right time. He gentlemanly stretched out his arm for Serena to hold. You are the focus of the whole audience tonight. Serena smiled slightly. The focus is not important. What is important is to let some people know that I am not easy to mess with. The interaction between the two was natural and intimate, attracting envious glances from the people around. Ethan looked at this scene and felt a pang in his heart. He wanted to step forward, but he didn't know what to say. Halfway through the dinner, some guests began to ask Serena about her engagement with the Carter family. I heard that you have an engagement with the Carter family? Is this true? A noble lady asked curiously. Serena elegantly picked up the wine glass and took a sip. The past is not worth mentioning. Now I am more focused on the development and charity of the Morgan Group. Her answer was clever and appropriate. She did not respond directly but also hinted at her attitude. Keith added at the right time. Miss Serena has many grand plans for the future of the group. I believe that under her leadership the Morgan Group will move to a higher level. Lucy was eating dessert obediently on the side. Suddenly she noticed that Ethan had been staring at them not far away. She ran to Serena and whispered, Mom, that uncle is looking at us again. Serena squatted down and said to Lucy gently, Lucy, if you meet someone you don't like in the future, just do this. She made a gesture of ignoring and Lucy learned it well, making people around her laugh softly. Ethan's face turned red and white, and he knew that he had completely lost his place in Serena's heart. When the dinner was coming to an end, Ethan finally plucked up the courage to stop Serena. Serena, can we talk? Serena glanced at him without a trace of ripples in her eyes. There's nothing to talk about, Ethan. The moment you made your choice, it was over between us. Keith stood behind Serena, frowned slightly, and his eyes revealed a warning. Ethan said anxiously, I know I was wrong, I regret it, give me a chance to explain. Serena sneered, Explain? You abandoned me for the benefit of the family, and now you want to come back, do you think it's possible? After that she turned and left with Lucy and Keith, leaving Ethan standing alone, full of regret and nowhere to tell. After returning home, Serena sat on the sofa tiredly, and Lucy had fallen asleep in the room. Keith poured her a glass of water and sat next to her. Don't pay too much attention to Ethan's words, he is just panicking now. Serena sighed. I don't care about him, but I still feel a little sad when I think of the past. However, I won't let him affect my plan again. Keith nodded. Next we have to speed up our actions. The Carter family will definitely not give up. The two discussed for a long time and formulated a detailed response strategy. Serena knew that the battle with Ethan and the Carter family had just begun. With Keith's full support, she was confident that she could win the final victory, make those who had hurt her pay the price, and create a brand new future for herself and her daughter. Chapter 6. The Growth of Regret. Ethan's office was in a mess, with documents thrown randomly on the ground and chairs tilted to one side. Ethan's face was haggard and his eyes were bloodshot. He had just confirmed the fact that made him completely collapse. The heir to the Morgan Group who was engaged to him was Serena, who was ruthlessly abandoned by him. His hands trembled as he picked up the photo of him and Serena on the table. It was in the hospital garden with Serena pushing him, and the two of them had happy smiles on their faces. But now this smile hurt his heart like a sharp blade. How could this happen? Ethan muttered to himself, his voice full of despair and regret. He recalled that he had cruelly abandoned Serena for the sake of the family's interests. Those heartless words and indifferent attitudes were like heavy hammers, hitting his heart again and again. He finally understood that he had pushed the most precious happiness away from him with his own hands. Ethan began to call Serena frantically, but the only sound from the receiver was a cold, busy tone, and each tone seemed to declare that he had done it himself. He was unwilling to give up and kept sending messages with pleading and regret between the lines, but Serena never responded. "Serena, please answer the phone. I was wrong, really wrong." Ethan shouted at the phone almost desperately, but the only response he got was his own echo in the empty office. Finally, Ethan decided to go directly to Serena's apartment to find her. He drove all the way with only one thought in his mind: apologize to Serena, ask for her forgiveness and save this broken relationship. Arriving downstairs of the apartment building, Ethan took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down, but when he pressed the doorbell his heartbeat accelerated uncontrollably. The door slowly opened, revealing Lucy's cute little face. She blinked her big eyes and looked at Ethan curiously. "Who are you?" Ethan was speechless for a moment. He didn't know how to introduce himself to this little girl. At this moment Serena's voice came from the house. "Lucy, who is it?" As she said, she came over, and when she saw Ethan, her eyes instantly became cold. "What are you doing here? Didn't I say that there is no relationship between us anymore?" Serena's voice was cold, as if Ethan was just a stranger. Ethan hurriedly said, "Serena, I know I was wrong. I really regret it. I investigated and found out that the person I was engaged to was you. Enough." Serena interrupted him. "When you gave up, you should have thought of the result today. Lucy and I don't need a betrayer." Ethan's eyes fell on Lucy and he suddenly realized something. She is your daughter?" Serena hugged Lucy tightly as if protecting the most precious baby. "Yes, this is my 5-year-old daughter. What you gave up was not only me but also the future we might have." Ethan's legs softened and he almost fell. He never thought that Serena already had a child, let alone that he had missed so much. He looked at Serena and Lucy, and the regret in his heart was like a surging tide, completely drowning him. "Serena, please give me another chance. I really know I was wrong. I will make up for everything," Ethan said, almost begging. Serena looked at him coldly. "Make up? Do you think it's so easy to make up for someone you've hurt? Go away, I don't want to see you again." After that she closed the door mercilessly. Ethan stood outside the door, unwilling to leave for a long time. He leaned against the door, slowly slid down and sat on the ground. Memories came like a tide. Those days in the hospital when Serena took care of him gently, every moment they spent together, were constantly playing in his mind at this moment. He remembered the promises he had made to Serena, those beautiful visions of the future, but now they have all turned into bubbles. Why am I so stupid? Ethan held his head with both hands, blaming himself painfully. He finally understood that he had sacrificed true love and happiness for the benefit of his family, and now everything is irreversible. After an unknown amount of time, Ethan slowly got up and left with heavy steps. He knew that Serena would not easily forgive him and he could not easily forgive himself. Back home, Ethan locked himself in the room and stared at the darkness. The figures of Serena and Lucy kept appearing in his mind, and the regret in his heart became stronger. At this time, Serena was sitting on the sofa holding Lucy. Lucy asked with a puzzled look, "Mom, why is that uncle crying?" Serena gently stroked Lucy's hair. "Because he did something wrong and now regrets it. However, this is his own choice. We have to look forward." Lucy nodded as if she understood. Well, my mother and I will look forward together. Serena hugged Lucy tightly with mixed feelings in her heart. Although Ethan's appearance evoked her painful memories, she knew that her life with Lucy would continue. She would no longer be bound by the past. She would take Lucy to a better future, and Ethan would become a past in her life that she could not bear to look back on. Chapter 7. Complete Defeat. In the Carter family meeting room, the atmosphere was as solemn as the dead silence before a storm. Ethan's father sat in the main seat, his face was terribly gloomy, and the elders around him were also serious. The meeting room was filled with a depressing atmosphere. Ethan, what's wrong with you? Morgan Group suddenly cancelled the cooperation, the stock price plummeted, and the partners terminated the contract one after another. You must give us an explanation. Ethan's father slammed the table and questioned angrily. Ethan lowered his head and was speechless. He knew in his heart that all this was caused by his wrong decision, but it was too late to say anything now. The accusations of the family members came one after another, and every sentence was like a heavy hammer hitting his heart. You shouldn't have given up the engagement with the Morgan family. Now it's good. The family is in crisis. Are you satisfied? An elder accused angrily. Ethan gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and his heart was full of regret. He knew that the family now placed all their hopes on him, hoping that he could restore the relationship with the Morgan Group, but he knew that Serena would never let him go easily. At the same time, the atmosphere at the Morgan Group's press conference was heated. Serena stood on the stage, facing the many media and guests below, with a calm and confident look. She was wearing a capable black suit, with a strong aura and unquestionable firmness in her eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand here today to announce an important decision. Serena's voice was clear and powerful, echoing in the venue. From now on, the Morgan Group will cancel all cooperation with the Carter family. There was an uproar in the audience, and the media reporters raised their cameras, flashes flashing continuously, recording this shocking moment. Serena continued. In addition, regarding certain acts of betrayal and violation of business ethics, I hope everyone will take it as a warning. The Morgan Group has always valued integrity and reputation, and we will not continue to cooperate with such partners. Although Serena did not name names, everyone knew that she was referring to Ethan and the Carter family. After the press conference, the media quickly spread the news. For a time, the news that Morgan Heir cancelled the engagement and exposed the Carter family scandal occupied the headlines of major media. The Carter family's stock price plummeted like a dive, and partners demanded to terminate the contract. The once glorious Carter family fell into an unprecedented crisis. Ethan looked at all this and was filled with despair. He knew that this was all Serena's counterattack and he had no power to fight back. Ethan tried to contact Serena again, even if it was just to ask her to meet and listen to his explanation. He waited downstairs of the Morgan Group for a whole day, but Serena didn't see him at all. Seeing Ethan, Keith said coldly, "Are you anxious now? Why didn't you think about the consequences when you hurt Serena?" Ethan was speechless. He lowered his head like a loser. He knew that his greed and cowardice had put both his family and himself in a desperate situation. Serena did not give up. She asked her assistant to release more evidence to prove the Carter family's secret manipulation and unfair competition in past cooperation. Once these evidences were exposed, public opinion completely turned to the Morgan Group, and the Carter family was criticized by thousands of people. The elders of the Carter family ran around, trying to save the situation, but it was all in vain. They had to hold a press conference to publicly apologize to the Morgan Group and the public, and the family's reputation plummeted. Ethan sat alone in the empty office of the Carter family, looking at the bustling New York street scene outside the window, his heart full of bitterness. Once he was the hope of the family with a beautiful love and a bright future, but now, everything has vanished. He lost Serena, lost the trust of the family, and lost his dignity. What on earth did I do? Ethan muttered to himself, his voice full of despair and regret. He finally understood that there is no turning back in life, and he must pay a heavy price for the mistakes he made. After dealing with all this, Serena returned home, and Lucy threw herself into her arms as usual. "Mom, you're back." Serena hugged Lucy tightly, feeling her daughter's warm embrace, her heart full of happiness. "Lucy, Mom will always be with you in the future," Serena said gently. Lucy smiled and nodded. Well, I love Mom the most. Looking at her daughter's innocent smile, Serena knew that everything she did was worth it. She is no longer the woman who can only cry silently after being hurt. She is the heir of the Morgan Group, Lucy's strong support, and the queen who controls her own destiny. Keith came to Serena's house and saw the warm picture of mother and daughter. He smiled and said, "Everything is over. What are your plans next?" Serena smiled and said, "Live well, run the Morgan Group well, and create a better future with Lucy." Keith nodded, "I will always support you." Outside the window, the afterglow of the sunset sprinkled on the ground, covering the entire city with a golden coat. Serena looked out the window, her heart full of expectations for the future. The pain of the past has become history, and she will embrace a new life with courage and strength. Chapter 8. The Bloom of New Life. Serena sat at her desk, reviewing the documents attentively. Her eyes were firm and confident, and she signed her name on the documents from time to time with a pen in her hand. Her movements were neat and tidy. After this period of hard work, the Morgan Group has been thriving under her leadership, and its various businesses have been steadily expanding. It has successfully survived the short-term fluctuations caused by the termination of the contract with the Carter family, and has established a more positive image in the industry. Keith knocked on the door and walked into the office. "Lucy's campus activities are about to start, we should set off." Serena looked up, looked at the time, and a gentle smile appeared on her face. "I almost forgot to go because I was busy." She stood up, tidied her clothes, and left the office with Keith. The school auditorium was very lively, and the laughter of children echoed in the air. Serena and Keith found their seats and sat down. After a while, the performance on the stage began. Lucy appeared on the stage in a cute bunny costume, with an innocent smile on her face and sparkling eyes. Serena followed Lucy closely, her eyes full of pride and love. "Lucy is so cute and performed very well," Keith said to Serena with a smile. Serena nodded slightly with a smile on her face. "Yes, she always surprises me." After the performance, Lucy ran off the stage excitedly and threw herself into Serena's arms. "Mom, am I great?" Serena hugged her tightly and kissed her on the cheek. "The best, my baby." Just then Ethan appeared from nowhere. He looked very haggard, thin, and his hair was a little messy. His eyes were full of pleading, and he looked straight at Serena. "Serena, give me another chance." Keith immediately stood in front of Serena with a warning in his eyes. "You are not qualified." Serena took Lucy by the hand, walked around Ethan, and said coldly, "Ethan, I have let go of the past. Now I have a daughter and a career, and I don't need you." Ethan did not give up and took a step forward. "Serena, I know I was wrong, I really changed, please believe me again." Serena stopped and looked back at him. "Do you think that you can make up for hurting others by saying I was wrong? It's too late, Ethan. Your original choice doomed the ending today." After that, she ignored Ethan and walked out of the auditorium with Lucy and Keith. Ethan looked at their backs as they left, his legs softened, and he sat on the ground. He finally realized that he had completely lost Serena and the happiness that was once so close. His heart was full of regret, but everything was irreversible. Serena brought Lucy and Keith to a cozy restaurant. The table was full of Lucy's favorite food. She ate happily and shared interesting things in school with Serena and Keith from time to time. Looking at Lucy's smile, Serena's heart was full of warmth and satisfaction. "Mom, I'm so happy today," Lucy said with a smile. Serena touched her head. "As long as you are happy, Mom is happy." Keith looked at the mother and daughter, and his heart was full of emotion. "Serena, you are really different now, becoming stronger and more confident." Serena smiled. "After so much, I have to grow up. However, I am very grateful for these experiences, which made me understand what is the most important." After dinner, they took a walk in the park together. The afterglow of the sunset sprinkled on their bodies, warm. Lucy ran in front, and Serena and Keith followed behind, enjoying this rare tranquility and beauty. "What are your plans next?" Keith asked. Serena looked into the distance. "Continue to expand the business of the Morgan Group and create a better life for Lucy. I also want to spend more time with her and take her to see more scenery." Keith nodded. "If you need my help, tell me anytime." Serena looked at him gratefully. "Thank you, Keith. Thanks to you all the way." The two smiled at each other, and a tacit understanding flowed between them. After so many things, Their relationship has long surpassed ordinary colleagues and friends, and is more like mutual dependence and support. The sky gradually darkened and Serena took Lucy back home. After bathing Lucy and coaxing her to sleep, Serena came to the balcony. She looked at the night sky, the stars twinkled, the breeze blew, and her heart was peaceful. Once she thought love was all of life. For Ethan, she was willing to hide her identity and give her all. But when this love was broken, she realized that she could only rely on herself. Now she has a career, a daughter, and the courage to start over. Mom. Lucy's voice came from the room and Serena hurried into the room. What's wrong, baby? Serena asked softly. I had a nightmare. Lucy whispered. Serena sat on the bed and hugged her gently. Don't be afraid, Mom is here. Mom will always protect you. Lucy hugged Serena tightly. Mom, I love you so much. Serena's eyes were slightly moist. Mom loves you too and will always love you. Watching Lucy fall asleep again, Serena gently closed the door. She knew that the road ahead was still long, and there might be new challenges and difficulties, but she was no longer afraid. Because she had the most precious baby and she also had the courage and strength to move forward firmly. A new life has just begun.